Apartment. Thanksgiving at my parents' house has always operated like a ceremony disguised as dinner. The table stretches too long for the room, extended with borrowed panels. Apartment. Place cards determine hierarchy more than seating convenience. 32 relatives this year. My mother likes announcing the number as if it proves something about unity. Apartment. I arrived knowing my role. I am the one who made it. Stable career. Paid off condo. No visible struggles. That identity has been useful to everyone, especially my parents. Apartment. It makes me the least complicated child. The one who needs the least. Dessert had just been served when my father cleared his throat. He didn't stand. He didn't need to. In that room, his voice has always been enough. We've decided, he began, glancing at my mother, that your sister will be taking over your portion of Grandma's estate. You already have enough. Apartment. This just makes sense. There it was, presented as logic, packaged as generosity. For a moment, I thought the air had shifted. Forks paused midair. A cousin gave a tight smile. Apartment. My sister stared at her plate, color rising into her cheeks. It wasn't about the money. Not really, it was the phrasing. Already have enough. Punt. As if inheritance were a reward system based on visible need. As if my grandmother's intentions were flexible suggestions. I set my fork down carefully. Apartment. I don't think that's how Grandma structured it, I said. My voice was calm. I hadn't planned that part, but it helped. My mother's palm struck the table with a sharp crack. Not violent. Apartment. Territorial. Don't start, she snapped. We're trying to do what's fair. The room leaned toward her automatically. Years of habit. Apartment. I could almost feel the collective wish for me to let it go. To protect the illusion of harmony. A familiar urge surfaced, the old reflex to smooth things over. To say, it's fine. Apartment. To absorb the discomfort so no one else had to. Instead, I nodded once toward the woman seated quietly near the corner. Most of my relatives had assumed she was a colleague. Or a friend. Apartment. No one had asked. She stood. The sound of her briefcase opening was small but decisive. Conversations died mid-breath. My name is Elaine Porter, she said evenly. I was retained by Mrs. Apartment. Harper prior to her passing to review and update her estate documents. The tone of the room shifted from emotional to procedural in seconds. Apartment. Elaine removed a folder and placed it on the table. No drama. Just paper. Mrs. Harper included a protective clause. She continued. All designated distributions are legally binding. Apartment. Any attempt to reassign portions without mutual consent would require formal court proceedings. Court proceedings. The words landed heavier than my objection ever could have meant. My father frowned. We're not talking about court. This is a family matter. With respect, Elaine replied. The estate is no longer a family discussion. It was finalized last year in probate. Alterations are not discretionary. My mother's expression tightened. Authority built on emotion doesn't compete well with documentation. Apartment. I wasn't aware of that, she said sharply. Mrs. Harper requested discretion, Elaine answered. A murmur moved through the table. Not loud but unmistakable. The focus had shifted. Apartment. The assumption that I would quietly accept a public redistribution dissolved under the weight of fact. I felt no surge of triumph. Only steadiness. Apartment. I didn't want this to be awkward, I said. But Grandma made deliberate choices. I'm honoring them. No one applauded. No one defended me openly. The room simply adjusted to a new reality. My sister finally looked at me. There was no accusation in her face. Only confusion, and maybe relief that she hadn't spoken up first. Dinner resumed in fragments. Apartment. Conversations were softer now, more careful. My father leaned back in his chair, his earlier confidence thinned. My mother focused intently on refilling glasses that didn't need refilling. Apartment. The humiliation that had been aimed at me hadn't boomeranged dramatically. It had simply dispersed, no longer concentrated in one seat at the table. After dessert, Apartment. Relatives began leaving earlier than usual. A few paused to squeeze my shoulder. Small gestures that said, we saw that. My sister approached last. I didn't know, she said quietly. Apartment. I know, I replied. It wasn't her decision. She'd been positioned as the beneficiary of something that was never hers to claim. At the door, Elaine closed her briefcase. Apartment. You handled that professionally, she told me. I almost didn't, I admitted. But you prepared, she said. That was the difference. Preparation instead of protest. Apartment. When I stepped outside into the cold evening air, the house looked the same. Warm lights, familiar walls, nothing outwardly fractured, but something had shifted. For years, Apartment. I'd mistaken silence for maturity. Thought absorbing small dismissals kept the peace. Tonight proves something. Quiet or peace built on compliance is just imbalance in disguise. Apartment. The estate remains exactly as my grandmother designed it. That's the external outcome. Clear. Binding unchanged. The internal one is subtler. My parents now understand that I will not be managed through public pressure. That I am capable of restraint, and of boundaries. There will be consequences. Apartment. Future holidays may feel strained. My mother may retell the evening as an ambush. My father may withdraw into quiet resentment. I didn't win anything that night. There was no celebration. No reconciliation. But I left with something intact. Not the inheritance, myself.